Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webcast entitled IRS Backup Withholding, When and Why. To submit a question or comment at any time during the webcast, please click on the Provide Feedback button on the bottom of your screen. At this time, it is my pleasure to turn the floor over to today's host, Lori Stieber. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Lori Stieber, and co-presenting with me today is Pat Regetz. Today, the Office of Federal, State, and Local Governments, or FSLG, is bringing you backup withholding, when and why. Pat and I are both internal revenue agents and specialists with FSLG. Now, before we begin, we have several important announcements to share with you. The information contained in this presentation is current as of the date it was presented and should not be considered official guidance. This program is being recorded and will be maintained in accordance with federal record-keeping laws. It will be archived for later viewing on our website at irsvideos.gov. Click on the Governments tab and then Employers found along the left ribbon. Although we will not be taking questions during this event, we do want to hear from you. If something in the presentation prompts a question, click on the Provide Feedback link on your screen. Your questions help us determine future topics and help us to keep updated information available for you at irs.gov. We provide resources at irs.gov to help you, and many of them will be cited on our slides today. Now, Pat will begin our presentation.
Thank you, Lori. Internal Revenue Code Section 3406 provides that you may be required to withhold a specific percentage, currently 28%, of certain reportable payments. This is backup withholding. You must file an information return for those payments and furnish a copy to the payment recipient. Today we aim to discuss when to backup withhold, how to report and pay backup withholding to the IRS, how to furnish the information to the payee, and what the cost could be if you do not backup withhold when it's required. The most common information return that generates backup withholding assessments is Form 1099 Miscellaneous, better known as Form 1099 MISC. Let's review when a Form 1099 Miscellaneous needs to be issued. If you have paid $600 or more for rent, non-employee compensation, prizes and awards, medical or health care costs, payments to an attorney, and certain other reportable payments, you are required to report them on Form 1099 Miscellaneous. Individuals and partnerships would get Form 1099, whereas most corporations would not. Corporations that must be issued a Form 1099 Miscellaneous are those that provide medical, health care, and attorney services. You are not required to report payments or information reporting. A few of them are specific tax-exempt organizations, government and agencies, corporations, except when payments are for medical, health care, and attorneys, as well as other entities listed in the instructions for the requester of Form W-9. A taxpayer identification number, a TIN, P-I-N, may be a Social Security number, SSN, an employer identification number, EIN, or an individual identification number, ITIN, ITIN. A Social Security number issued by the Social Security Administration. The EIN and the ITIN, ITIN, are issued by the Internal Revenue Service. So when is backup withholding required? There are 4 situations which trigger backup withholding. 2 situations apply only to reportable interest and dividend payments. These situations are reviewed in the instructions for the requester of Form W-9. One common backup withholding situation is a missing TIN. This is when a reportable payment is made to a payee who is not exempt from backup withholding and the payee has not provided you their TIN. An obviously incorrect TIN is considered a missing TIN. If a TIN has more or less than 9 numbers, it is an incorrect TIN and is considered a missing TIN. If a TIN contains an alpha character, it is an incorrect TIN and is considered a missing TIN. Some of the more common reportable payments that are subject to backup withholding include interest, dividends, rent, royalties, commissions, gross proceeds paid to attorneys, and non-employee compensation. Not every reportable payment, however, is subject to backup withholding. Some of the payments excluded from backup withholding are real estate transactions, foreclosures and abandonment, distributions from retirement accounts, and state and local income tax refunds.
Thanks, Pat. Another situation that may trigger backup withholding is if the IRS mails you a notice that a payee's TIN is missing, incorrect, and or not currently issued. This notice may be either a CP2100 or CP2100A notice, hereafter referred to as a CP notice. The CP notice comes with a list of missing, incorrect, and or not currently issued payee TINs. Large volume filers, those who have 250 or more error documents, receive a CD or DVD data file, CP2100. Mid-size filers, who have 50 and to 249 error documents, receive a paper CP2100 notice. And small filers, who have fewer than 50 error documents, will receive a paper CP2100A notice. Now, if a CP notice is received stating certain information is missing or incorrect, the first thing to do is compare the notice with your records. For missing TINs, confirm whether backup withholding is already being done. If it's not, the next time the payee is paid, begin backup withholding immediately and continue until the TIN is received. Again, a TIN is considered to be missing if it has not been provided or it is obviously incorrect. Obviously incorrect TINs contain more than or less than 9 numbers, or the TIN contains an alpha character. Generally, a payee's TIN must be obtained even for a one-time transaction, or the payer may be assessed a penalty. You must make up to 2 solicitations, referred to as the first annual and second annual solicitations, in order to obtain the TIN and avoid a penalty for failing to include it on the information return. See Frequently Asked Question number 19 in Publication 1281, Backup Withholding for Missing and Incorrect Name TINs, for specific dates required to be met. Document your attempts to collect the correct payee information because the payer is obligated to take these steps. A B notice is a backup withholding notice that is sent to the payee. There are 2 B notices, the first B notice and the second B notice. Copies of these notices are in Publication 1281. It is your responsibility to send the appropriate B notice to the payee when required in order to obtain the correct name TIN combination. This information may not be solicited by telephone. A TIN is considered incorrect when it is displayed in the proper format, but the name TIN combination doesn't match the IRS or Social Security records or cannot be located in their files. Publication 1281, Section 5, details the IRS TIN matching process and what should be done. If the information provided with the CP notice does not agree with your records, there are several possible reasons. It is possible that the information in your records is correct, or the payee may have updated their information, but you still receive a notice. The payee being included on the CP notice could be the result of a recent update to Social Security Administration records, the result of an error in the information you submitted, or the result of an IRS processing error. If this is what happened, the only thing you should do is to correct or update your records if necessary. If the information in the CP notice agrees with your records, you are required to send up to 2 B notices to the payee, or else begin backup withholding.
The outside mailing envelope for the first and second B notice must be clearly marked. Important tax information enclosed, or important tax return document enclosed. You must send the first B notice and a Form W-9 to the payee by the later of 15 business days from the date of the CP notice or the date you received it. Begin backup withholding on payments made to payees who do not return a signed Form W-9 no later than 30 business days after the date of the CP notice or the date you receive it, whichever is later. Stop backup withholding no later than 30 calendar days after you receive the signed Form W-9 from the payee. If the IRS notifies you in the next calendar year that a TIN is still incorrect, you must send a second B notice within 15 business days after you receive the second CP notice. The text of the second B notice is different from the first B notice. The second B notice requires the payee to contact IRS if the TIN is an employer identification number, or the Social Security Administration if the TIN is a Social Security number, to validate the correct name and TIN combination. The mailing of a second B notice should not include a Form W-9. The payee must then submit validation of the payee name and TIN combination from IRS or Social Security to the payer to be relieved of backup withholding. An individual payee must provide their payer a copy of a Social Security card with his or her name correct and Social Security number. Payers may rely on a Social Security card as being correct only if the name and Social Security number combination appearing on the card differ from the name and Social Security number combination appearing on the second B notice. Or if there is a date appearing on the Social Security card that is no earlier than 6 months prior to the date of the second B notice. If the TIN is an employer identification number, the payee must contact the IRS to get his or her employer identification number validated on IRS letter 147C. After you receive a second CP notice and send a second B notice, you must begin backup withholding on payments made no later than 30 business days from the receipt of the CP notice. The payee must furnish a copy of a Social Security card or IRS letter 147C in order to prevent or stop the withholding. You must continue to backup withhold until you receive the validation. Stop backup withholding no later than 30 days after you receive the required validation.
Sometimes payees are listed on a CP notice for the third time or more. You may ignore these notices if you completed the actions for the first and second B notices and the incorrect payee name TIN combination and account number remain the same. However, if the CP notice relates to the same payee but with a different name TIN combination than the first and second notice, you must treat the notice as a first notice. You can find additional information about backup withholding for missing and incorrect TINs in IRS Publication 1281. Now we're going to discuss some common situations our customers face with CP notices. First, sometimes corrected accounts remain on the CP notice listing of missing or incorrect TINs. This may be due to processing cutoff points. A listing may or may not reflect your latest corrections. If you know that an account was corrected, don't send a B notice to the payee. Second, If you made an error in processing the information returned, but you know you have the correct information on file, what should you do? The answer is to just make any required change to your records and use the correct information on future filings. Don't send a B notice to the payee. The third situation is when a payee responds to your first B notice with the same incorrect information. What do? Just keep the Form W-9 on file to show that the payee certified the name TIN combination provided. Do not backup withhold at this point. Fourth, and finally, many entities no longer do business with the payee listed on the notice, or perhaps it was just a one-time transaction. In these cases, send the B notice out to the payee and try to get the correct TIN. If you don't receive the TIN, notate your records so that if you do business again with the payee, you can track the notices for the 2- and 3-year rule. The IRS requires that you track these accounts for 3 years after the date of the first CP notice. Note that a B notice is not required if no payments have been made to an account and no return is required for the account for 1 year. Also, note that it's not necessary to call or write the IRS to say that you made the correction or update to your records. And do not file a corrected Form 1099 unless you are also making a change to the dollar amount previously reported on it. Always refer to Publication 1281 for detailed explanations.
Backup withholding must be deposited with and reported to the IRS. You are required to make separate deposits for backup withholding, reported on Form 945, annual return of withheld federal income tax, and payroll deposits reported on Form 941, employer's quarterly federal tax return, or Form 944, employer's annual federal tax return. Refer to Section 11 in Publication 15, Circular E, Employer's Tax Guide for more information on depositing rules. You can download the Form 945 and instructions at www.irs.gov. You, the payer, are liable for backup withholding amounts that should have been withheld. In addition, the IRS can assess penalties, including failure to deposit backup withholding, failure to file Form 945, and failure to pay the balance due with a return. Penalties are subject to interest once they are assessed. If you have any questions about backup withholding, information reporting, Forms 1099, or CP2100 or CP2100A notices and listings, you may call the Information Reporting Program Customer Service Station, toll-free at 866-455-7438, Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We mentioned the IRS matches TINs and names for Forms 1099 miscellaneous sent to them. You can also use the IRS TIN matching program to check the name and TIN combinations payees provide to you. The TIN matching program is a pre-filing service offered only to payers and or their authorized agents who submit any of 7 information returns: 1099-B, 1099-INT, 1099-DIV, 1099-K, 1099-OID, 1099-PATR, or 1099-MISC. The program enables validation of TIN and name combinations prior to filing information returns, which may prevent the issuance of CP notices. Interactive TIN matching enables you to match groups of up to 25 payee TIN and name combinations with an IRS response within 5 seconds. At this time, there is a limit of 999 on the number of interactive requests that may be input during a 24-hour period by one user ID. Bulk matching TIN program is also available. It enables you to submit a file with up to 100,000 TIN and name combinations with an IRS response within 24 hours. Refer to publication 2108A, Online Taxpayer Identification Number, TIN Matching Program, for information on the program. Under Internal Revenue Code Section 6724, IRS may waive penalties assessed under Code Section 6721 for failure to file correct information returns if the filer can show the failure to provide a correct TIN on an information return, such as a Form 1099 miscellaneous, was due to reasonable cause and not willful neglect. In short, a participating payer may cite a payee name and TIN match as reasonable cause by providing a copy of the print screen from the TIN matching program to abate any penalties due to incorrect payee TINs.
We have covered the basics of backup withholding today. We talked about what backup withholding is all about and what to do when you receive a CP2100 or CP2100A notice. Resources were provided so you can find help when you need it. And we described how you can check whether or not the TIN name combinations provided to you match before filing them with the IRS or providing them to the payee. Thank you for taking the time today to learn more about backup withholding and Form 1099 miscellaneous requirements. Goodbye.